Hello, that's Kamala. Okay, so this video is specifically, I want to help those people who are, um, are curious how to overcome the physical symptoms like acne, for example. And uh, and for me, I must say that I want to just say that this is something that I overcome with inner work, like physical symptoms, like this, for example, vanish naturally from my life because I basically went into deep inner work and I come across emotional neglect. That was my first book from library called Emotional Neglect. And basically the physical symptom disappeared naturally just because I did some exercises about, I was starting to heal my layers within myself, my emotional wounding, all these layers. And I realized I still hadn't resolved something about my father, and I knew that we had complex relationships, so that was one of my big inner work, diving deeper into myself. And then I remember I was meditating. It was 2010. I was meditating, and I discovered Louise Hay, and I really nourished myself with her voice. Her voice was like something that I think my inner feminine needed more. Like that time I needed to nourish my soul with this wise feminine, because of course, if you have parents' voices and you are the adult, becoming the adult, not being the victim, not being the child, but being really the adult. Many times we have these voices like somewhere in our energy field, and it's the unhealthy mother within us. Don't do that, you are too young, you are too old, don't do that. Shoot. Now I'm shooting them nowadays. Like they can always appear because my inner work has different steps, of course. And that time, that was 12, 15, 14 years ago, exactly. And that time I intuitively needed voice of Louise Hay. And that time I nourished my soul with daily meditation intuitively. I meditated for 3 months minimum, I think, just doing some prayer with her voice. It was very interesting. My body, my being, my soul needed her voice. So I was just listening her a lot on YouTube, on computer, and doing deep meditation. And so beside this to work, like relationship with my father, I was really like screaming at me. I was like one of the first times I was really doing like this psychological therapy with myself, like screaming at him. He was of course not present, but letting it out of my chest, this thing. And at some point I realized it was moving, started to move this energy in my body that, see how my face is glowing. The side effect was I lost the acne. Since the time I have glowing skin. But so that time, that was the shift, and it was a really huge shift. Something shifted, like one of the layers. Like, of course, if you do more inner work, there are like bigger wounds have 4 or 5 layers. And if you find a good therapist, he can really take off the really root. But doesn't matter, like it's still good to have, like, sometimes to take this slowly or find a way. So that worked for me, and I emailed him that time, and I followed the guidelines of the book, and I said like, yes, when you actually, do you know, I was just curious, like, do you know, like, when you were like telling me like your legs are horrible. I was 5 year old. It really touched me and it really affected me. So I was using these guidelines like when you did this, I was small, and I think I was not writing it as a victim. It was empowering me that time, just to let him know that the words you used when I was so young, when such a small baby, it really affected me, like in that way. And yeah, maybe I like sent him like this, and he replied, and he was very calm, but it still felt like a huge shift. And that time he had a new girlfriend after, like, I don't know, 12 years after with my mom divorce. It felt like it didn't break our relationship. He wanted to show off because he's got a narcissistic behavior. So he wanted to show off, oh, this is my daughter, she's in the UK, blah, blah, blah. And we just continued. It felt like nothing. But for me, it was huge. Like, oh my God, I told my father this. And I had a huge, like, a kind of 15, 14 years of gap of relating to him. Since I was baby, I didn't have a strong relationship. Then I tried. So I had this huge mess in my whole body, complex relationship with him. And yeah, and then something shifted within my, like, the nervous system, like we are like a tree, and something shifted again. Like it was like a huge for me. And after this meditation, maybe 4 or 5 months, I also found a new job. And yeah, and that was like a really, like, I was meditating, and I was first time experience kind of out of body experience, I think, deep meditation. And then I saw myself from the distance, and then I continued doing, like, for 4 or 5 months. I was watching just follow my soul, like watching some documentaries about helping people in social care. And then I switched around from doing university in a coffee shop job. I completely switched and I started to do the social care. I applied, and 8 years after, I completely started a new chapter. I was 8 years in social care. So